As the Nats wrapped up the first two rounds of this year's MLB draft, there is one thing that is very clear, and that this Nationals approach in the 2024 draft, it's different. And you may be asking, why is it different? I'll explain after this.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as our show page at LO_Nationals. For all your latest Nationals news and notes, make sure to check us out over on Twitter. And of course, search up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcasts, including over on YouTube for the video form. If you want to see my face, it doesn't matter if you want to or not, but just know that it is there over on YouTube. And of course, just search Locked On Nationals, again, wherever you get your podcast. And later on in today's show, the Nationals, they said goodbye to Hunter Harvey. They have traded him over the weekend for a very intriguing kind of haul of guys. We'll have that for you in the third segment of today's show. As the Nationals, they got pick number 39, which they used on catcher from California, Caleb Lomavita. We'll have that for you in the third segment of today's show. And of course, Cayden Wallace as well, who, and just by the way, the Nationals, hit a home run with that trade. We'll discuss that a little bit later on. It's not even close. I did not expect the Nationals to even touch anything close to what they got back in return for Hunter Harvey. So it was a no-brainer. I can tell you that right now. I'll explain even further as to why it was a no-brainer for the Washington Nationals a little bit later on in today's show. But second segment, draft profiles. You've got Seaver King, Caleb Lomavita, and Luke Dickerson. Luke Dickerson is a high schooler from New Jersey. He is synonymous with one name. I'll tell you what that name is in the second segment. Hint, might be the greatest baseball player of all time. I'll have that for you in the second segment of today's show. But we start off with discussing the Nationals' approach in this year's draft because it is a very intriguing one. We've always talked about this, and again, I went into this year's draft thinking that, the Nationals are going to do what the Nationals do. Under Mike Rizzo, the Nationals have always gone best player available. They have always sat there and said, we're going to take a massive swing on whoever has the highest ceiling. We don't care how much money that they will cost. Whoever is sitting there at wherever they pick, we're going to take the highest ceiling possible. In this year's draft class, they threw that away. You may be asking yourself, what has changed? What changed with this Washington Nationals group under Mike Rizzo? Well, if you remember over the offseason, the Nationals made some front office adjustments. They hired Danny Haas over from who was the scouting director from the Arizona Diamondbacks. They hired him to kind of run scouting operations for the Nationals. And in my opinion, the most interesting hire possible over this last offseason was hiring Brad Ciolek as their new senior director of amateur scouting. He served as the Orioles director of draft operations and has been with the Baltimore Orioles since 2013. Now, if you kind of just take that for what it's worth. Again, the Nationals have always done one thing. They have taken a right-handed pitcher that throws 100 miles per hour who could be a front-of-the-line guy. They've taken chances on that. They've taken chances on prepster guys like Elijah Green who have massive ceilings, and as well as Brady House. One of them was working out for them, the other not so much. The Nationals just threw that game plan away in this year's draft. They cut a deal with Seaver King, and someone asked me on my really first reaction to the Nationals pick last night, what does it mean to cut a deal? Well, cutting a deal is basically just kind of what it is verbatim. But cutting a deal is you have this draft pool money. The Nationals have the seventh biggest draft pool in this year's draft class, meaning they have the seventh highest or most money to spend in this year's draft. With the Nationals, though, you get to kind of cut. It's bad explaining it at this point because it's cutting a deal with someone, but it's basically as if you are taking someone for less money at that slot compared to what they would have been later on in the draft, and you're just saving money in order to spend on later picks. And so with all that in mind, the Nationals, they traded Hunter Harvey for Cayden Wallace and as well as the 39th pick in last night's draft. I think once the Nationals made that Hunter Harvey deal, that kind of rang a bell for me in my head, being like, maybe the Nationals are trying to acquire this pick in order to cut a deal with someone at number 10 and then have some more money to spend at number 39 and as well as the second round of this year's draft. Well, I think that's exactly what happened. And again, this is what the Baltimore Orioles did. If you remember when they took Gunnar Henderson in round 2, that's exactly what they did. Draw him away from his college commit. They gave him a little bit more money in round 2, and now he's an MVP candidate and probably the best shortstop in all of baseball at this point in time. That's what the Orioles did throughout their time. And again, Brad Ciolek ran that operation. Now, here's the thing. Here's the big but, you could say. The Nationals, over the years with player development, it's been up and down. Very up and down, to say the least. You've got these monster ceilings. In the Orioles, there's no better organization in baseball at this point than developing talent than the Baltimore Orioles. They have had just a classic masterclass for developing future prospects. They've done that, and they've done that time and time again, and they'll continue to do that post Brad Ciolek, in my opinion. But now with this Nationals team, you've got the Orioles kind of brains behind this in the way that you draft. But now it's time to kind of get nitty gritty. Can you develop them? That is the big question, in my opinion. With the Washington Nationals, again, this is a smart operation. This is a smart thing to do to quote unquote cut a deal with someone, save some money and get some high school talent or even later talent in the later rounds. Save some money. And again, some people hear save money and be like, oh my God, the learners are so cheap. That's not what this is about. They're going to spend their money no matter what in this year's draft class. It is a smart way in order to get better talent through your door. And again, most of the time, these guys have been talking to agents. They know what they want. You know what Dickerson will want coming out of college or coming out of high school. So he's going to sign no matter what, in my opinion. Second round pick in this year's draft. Similar to what they did with Travis Sikora last year. They just gave him a ton of money and then didn't really do all too much after that. But with the Nationals, is this a smart kind of way to go about the draft now? It is. But my big concern is, if you're going to run this the way that the Orioles did with cutting deals with someone and getting a lot of talent through the door, young talent, raw talent, in particular with Seaver King, then you better have the development skills to go alongside that. Because Seaver King, while people are raving about the possibility of what he could be, this guy is still very raw. He was in Division II Wingate from 2022 through 2023, 2 years. Last year made the jump to Wake Forest, put up very impressive numbers across the ACC, but still, how much faith do you have in this Nationals player development side of things? I've got a little bit more faith than what I did at this time last year, but one thing is for sure, this Nationals player development side, this is still a big question mark. That's my one big, massive concern right now sitting here today. Can the Nationals develop these guys now? Because the method to get to this point, by cutting deals with someone, taking someone for under slot at number 10, and then using that money to get Lomavita and as well as Dickerson later on in the draft, it is a smart method. But can you now develop these guys and get the most out of them and turn them into big-time prospect, blue-chip kind of prospects? That's the big question at this point in time. And I don't know if the Nationals can do that. We simply have not really been able to see how the Nationals kind of use this method and see if it can turn around this Nationals farm system. Again, this is a top 10 farm system in baseball. You just got 3 pretty solid, talented guys through the door now. But the big question is going to be now, how can you develop them? That is my concern. And again, it probably should be your concern as well. I don't need to tell you about the first rounders that have flopped under this regime. There is a new player development side, But still, if you're going to be like the Orioles and you're going to cut deals like this, you have to be able to develop the talent as well. Because other than that, you probably should have taken a safe, kind of promising prospect that you know would have been able to help you relatively soon. Now, Mike Rizzo, I think still one of the best executives in all of baseball. Brad Ciolek has a track record of finding talent through the draft. It's now up to the player development side. Again, can they develop these guys? That is going to be the big, overwhelming question with them. But other than that, I am very excited for the way that the Nationals handled that draft yesterday. At first, I was like, Seaver King, I mean, I guess, solid talent. But at the end of the day now, you've got 3 really solid, could be blue chip kind of prospects someday down the road. I'll go over those draft profiles with you. But again, the Nationals, 3 guys should enter your top 10-ish of this farm system at this point in time. Seaver King will be a top 100 prospect. Cam Lomavita might be a top 100 prospect entering today's, I don't know, at this point in time, but still solid prospect nonetheless. We'll have those draft profiles for you from Seaver King, Cam Lomavita, and of course, you've got your high schooler, Luke Dickerson, who is the most intriguing one of them all. We'll have that for you, but we got to tell you guys about some of our very good friends over at Booking.com. And guys, this episode of Locked On Nationals is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn about. Yes, we're talking about your rivals cities with hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city. Maybe you're going to Chicago later on this month. And of course, the Nationals, they take a trip to Wrigley Field. You can get a hotel deal with Booking.com and they can give you the best recommendations. Maybe you want to have a rental or maybe you have a family you want to bring as well. They will give you all the details that you need. And of course, there's hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts. Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this Major League Baseball season. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rival. So book today on Booking.com on the site or in the Booking.com app. Now, let me tell you guys about some of our very good friends as well over at SupplyHouse. And guys, get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trade, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is a reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. And now we get back into the action as the Nationals made 3 picks in yesterday's draft. Let's get into it. Pick number 10, Seaver King. You already have my initial reaction yesterday, being a little bit confused with how the Nationals handled that, but still, this is someone who I think has a pretty high ceiling. And then again, we went over why the Nationals made this pick. They're cutting a deal, quote unquote, with him at number 10 overall. Less money, presumably, than what you would imagine. He was around the 17th best prospect, according to MLB.com. But this is where this is his profile. He's got a 55 grade hit tool, which is solid, 45 grade power, 65 grade runner, a 55 grade arm, and a 55 grade in the field. And again, at Wake Forest this year, this guy played second base, third base, center field, and as well as shortstop. You can move him all over the diamond. The Nationals did announce him as a shortstop, which I think was very interesting in my opinion. Is he going to be a shortstop up in the bigs? I would not say so. It doesn't necessarily fit that profile for me. I look at him most likely as a second baseman at this point in time, maybe a third baseman if it takes Brady House another year or so to develop. I don't know where the Nationals will put him, but the one thing is for sure is this guy has position flexibility and he's very good defensively. So right then and there, that is a good profile to have. Where he's going to have to improve is probably his swing and miss potential. This is someone who did chase a lot down at Wake Forest, and you don't really have his overall numbers down from D2 Wingate, but from his 1 year at Wake Forest, number one, the guy was one of the better offensive talents in the ACC this last year, and number two, kind of at times putting the offense on the back of Wake Forest. So Seaver King, the one thing that I really question is, can the Nationals fix that chase? Can you not have this guy chase up at the major league level? And can you develop some power within him? Because he's got that big frame for it. But the big question is, can you bring that out of him? How good can Seaver King be? And I think with Brad Ciolek, it gives me a little bit of hope. Because again, this guy does find talent, and he finds a lot of raw talent as well. If you remember Gunnar Henderson, when he went in the second round, everyone was kind of scratching their head being like, this guy? Now, he was a very talented high school prospect, but he was not considered to be some huge superstar in the making. I'm not saying Seaver King's going to be that, but they do have similar profiles where people were kind of questioning the swing and miss ability. People were questioning how good he can be at the major league level, and can this guy be a shortstop at the major league level? So there are similar profiles there. So it is interesting to see that because, again, he had a 577 slug this last year, a 635 slug in total in college over Wingate and Wake Forest as well. And again, the position flexibility is a huge key for this Nationals organization. So you see that Seaver King, 10th overall. It's an interesting pick to say the least. Caleb Lomavita, pick number 39, catcher out of California, the number 33 prospect according to MLB.com. This guy's a 50 grade hit tool, 55 grade power, a 50 grade runner, which we'll kind of get into here a little bit later on, but a 55 grade arm and a 50 grade fielder, overall a 50 grade prospect. Caleb Lomavita was actually rumored to go number 10 overall to cut a deal, quote unquote, but the Nationals ultimately did not. They went Seaver King, and then they got Caleb Lomavita, and this is someone that has actually been rumored to go to the Nationals for quite some time. So it's obvious that they've had their eyes set on him for quite some time. Solid defensively, pretty decent arm, really good athlete. And again, look at these numbers. This guy was a catcher, again, in the Pac-12. He stole 36 bases over his 3 years in the Pac-12. That's pretty good. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. If you're a catcher and you're stealing bases, I'm not expecting him to steal bases up in the bigs because, you know, catchers have a lot more wear and tear over 9 innings, playing every single day. It's a tough one. But Caleb Lomavita has stolen bases. He stole 12 bases this last year, 15 as a freshman. That's pretty good. Hit 16 home runs in 2023, hit 15 home runs in 2024, had 52 RBIs this last spring, batted .322, a .395 OBP, a .586 slug, and a .981 OPS. Caleb Lomavita is one of those guys where it's an intriguing pick. And again, the Nationals and Major League Baseball as a whole, you do not draft for need. But the Nationals, they know what they need right now. And they know what they aren't getting. Keibert Ruiz is on the hot seat, dare I say. A little bit. Lomavita is one of those guys who will be a pretty quick riser, in my opinion. And also, number two, could make an impact relatively soon. It depends how this guy hits. He is an athletic catcher. I believe some of them said that he's one of the most athletic catchers in this year's draft. So that's number one, very interesting. Stayed healthy throughout his career as well. Put up very good offensive numbers. Pretty solid defensively, nothing crazy. Keibert Ruiz, keep an eye on that. I don't know what the Nationals will do with him. I don't think anything will happen to him. He's not going to get traded. He's not going to get cut. He's not going to get DFA'd. He won't do any of that. But it is interesting. The Nationals, they've got their catcher. Again, some people thought that this guy would be a pretty early first-round pick. Some thought he would go number 10 overall to cut a deal with the Nats. But He went at number 39, and the Nationals took advantage of it. They took their guy. You get someone who can be an impact relatively soon to enter your farm system. So I thought that was a very good pick for the Nationals at number 39. That kind of cooled me off from the number 10 pick with Seaver King. I like Seaver King, but there's a lot of question marks of what he could be. My favorite pick of the draft, pick number 44, second round pick, Luke Dickerson out of New Jersey, high school prepster shortstop, the number 49 prospect according to MLB.com. And I did say this a little bit earlier. He is tied to one of the greatest players of all time, New Jersey, high school. You all know the name, Mike Trout. He tied his high school record for home runs with Mike Trout. Here's his profile, though. He's 45 grade hit tool, 55 grade power, 60 grade runner, a 50 grade arm, and 50 grade in the field. He is a shortstop, but I think by the time he makes the majors, this guy will be in the corners. I believe MLB Network was talking about that yesterday. This guy could be a third baseman, could be a first baseman, all said and done. Could also maybe even be a second baseman at this point. But this guy is very raw. A ton of power. Again, a good profile, very stocky, built-up guy. Maybe he's an outfielder at this point. Maybe he's a right fielder, a left fielder. I don't know. When you are a young 18, 19-year-old coming out of high school, if you're number one, if you're a shortstop, that's what you do. You draft a shortstop, the best athlete on the diamond, get them in your system, and see what the Nationals can do with them. Again, this is going to be a project. This is one of those Brad Ciolek picks who you're giving someone an above slot kind of money for and seeing what they can do with it. I don't know if the Nationals are going to be able to develop these guys again. But one thing is for sure is they've got an eye for talent with Brad Ciolek. So now it's up to the player development side of things. Can you get the most out of Luke Dickerson? We'll see. But still, exciting picks nonetheless. But still, the Nationals, they had a busy weekend, and it wasn't because of the MLB draft. You just traded away Hunter Harvey for what? We'll discuss that after we tell you guys about some of our very good friends over at Game Time. And guys, when we talk about Game Time, you already know Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. And, of course, maybe you're going against the Cubs later this month. Maybe when the Phillies come into town, you want to walk up Half Street just like I do every home game. When I do, I open up Game Time. 2 clicks away, bam, I've got tickets. I am walking in the ballpark. I see the national anthem, and then I get to my seats. But you may be asking, what's the best deal about Game Time? Well, I can tell you this. You get views from your seats right from your phone, so you see if there's any obstruction. And, of course, they're flash deals and they're zone deals. You can get those at any given moment, walking up to Nationals Park or maybe even a day ahead of time. You can get those last-minute tickets as well. And the lowest price is always guaranteed. And, of course, there's event cancellation protection, which I love. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We get back into it now with the Nationals as we say goodbye to Hunter Harvey. And again, if you're an everydayer out there, you may be asking, where's the stock report? Throw it away today. Way too much to talk about. We had to move on. The Nationals had a solid weekend in Milwaukee. That's all you needed to know. But today, Hunter Harvey, MLB draft talk. The Nationals got a lot better, in my opinion, over this weekend. And to get the weekend started, you trade away a Hunter Harvey for the 39th pick, which turned into Caleb Lomavita. And then you also got Cayden Wallace. Cayden Wallace was a second-round pick back in 2022 out of the University of Arkansas. He was the second overall prospect in the Royals farm system. Now, you may be asking, how good is their farm system? Not good at all. This is the sixth best prospect in the national system right now, and that is before you enter the 3 guys that we just got in the MLB draft. I would assume Seaver King jumps him, and I'll also assume Lomavita jumps him. And I think right now, Dickerson might be around just a tad behind Cayden Wallace at this point. But this is someone who has put up solid offensive numbers. He is around a tad above average as far as minor league hitters go. He has hit for a little bit of pop. He's been getting on base. But what he is known for as a third baseman is, number one, his arm. A 65 grade arm over from the hot corner. I would not be surprised to see Cayden Wallace sometime this season. If Trey Lipscomb is struggling and Brady House isn't necessarily ready at this point, I would not be surprised to see the Nationals maybe move Cayden Wallace relatively quickly up into the big leagues. Now, I don't know where the Nationals will start with this kid. I don't know if he's going to start in Double-A because he did have some injury history here with the Royals, but this kid has really turned it on in Double-A with the Royals so far. Now the Nationals get him. He's a 50 grade power guy, 45 grade hit tool, solid defensively, really good defensively, in fact, big arm. The Nationals now have a really good kind of section of third baseman. You enter Seaver King, who's in that conversation, obviously Brady House as well. You've got Cayden Wallace, and you also have Yohandy Morales, and again, Trey Lipscomb as well. You've got a loaded kind of system right now of third baseman. I like this method. This was, number one, a great trade by Mike Rizzo. A masterclass, in fact. Hunter Harvey, now I saw some people kind of bagging him a little bit, saying, oh, he sucks. He does not suck. Hunter Harvey does not suck. He has had a rough few weeks here. Whatever. It happens to relievers. He's going to be just fine in Kansas City. But that does not take away the fact that Kansas City overpaid for him. Absolutely. I was not expecting to get the 39th pick in this draft, and I certainly was not expecting to get Cayden Wallace, the number 2 prospect in the Royals system. Mike Rizzo, take a bow. What a trade. Hunter Harvey, again, he's got some years of control left under him. So what? He was not going to be part of this future. And again, if you make a postseason run next year, yeah. And now the focal point turns to Kyle Finnegan. What can you get in return now? If Hunter Harvey's price tag was that, what are you going to get for one of the better closers in all of baseball? That makes me giddy. Again, it sounds a little bit sexier getting the second best prospect in a team system, but let it be known that the Royals farm system is not good at all right now. So when you get Cayden Wallace, it's intriguing. Is he going to be some impact major leaguer? I don't know at this point in time. He has hit well. Can the Nationals kind of untap some talent from him? Because at this point in time, last year when you trade Candelario, you get Kevin Madey and DJ Hers. DJ Hers really took off, looked really good this year as well. Maybe Mike Rizzo just does this. And again, I've always trusted Mike Rizzo when it comes to trades. I think that is his kind of cream of the crop when it comes to him as an executive. He is one of the better trade guys in Major League Baseball. If Mike Rizzo is calling, you should not answer the phone. He simply wins trades. He has always done that, and I think he always will do that. That's the way that it works with him. There are some that have been kind of not so great, but ultimately, overall, big picture, Mike Rizzo is very good at this, finding talent where others may not see it. I am intrigued with what the Nationals did here. Moving on from Hunter Harvey was absolutely the right thing to do with this price tag in mind. Again, you get the 39th pick with Caleb Lomavita, a catcher who could be a DH, could be a first baseman, but likely will probably stay at catcher. Really good hit tool. You also get Cayden Wallace, someone who might be a utility guy for this team down the line, may even be a little bit more. Cayden Wallace is a very intriguing prospect, a young guy, 2022 second-round pick out of the University of Arkansas. So, Mike Rizzo, take a bow. You did it again. You made a good trade. It's unfortunate to see Hunter Harvey go, but we kind of saw the writing on the wall. He was not going to be here for the future. So, good trade. Good trade all around. What a show. Packed show today. MLB draft was yesterday. The MLB draft continues today, starting with a third round. We'll have more of those picks if the Nationals maybe cut a deal with someone in the third round. We'll have that for you on tomorrow's Locked On Nationals. And depending on what the Nationals do in the draft today, we'll probably move the stock report to end off the second half of the season. And of course, just talk about the Nats' first half. And again, the MLB Home Run Derby is tonight, so you will not want to miss that. But of course, enjoy the day. Have a good one. Go Nats.